Listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
From the intersection of Interstate 70 and Highway 63, the heart of Middle America, just a few miles south of the campus of the University of Missouri in Columbia. This is the Living on Sports podcast, and this is what we are talking about. Welcome into the show. I am Michael Spencer, joined as always by Cheston McGuire.
Happy to be here today. I'm ready, excited for this week.
What do we got going on today?
All right, so far we got MLB playoffs. We got the best team in football. We got a couple big weekends of college football last weekend and this weekend coming up.
Let's get started. MLB playoffs. Probably the most shocking thing is that the Cardinals and the Red Sox both got swept.
Yeah, that was a huge shock, especially the Cardinals. Vegas had picked them to be the team in the World Series this year. And in the regular season, they beat the Dodgers 5-2, but they end the season on a 6-game slide. What happened there?
It's really disappointing and really shocking. You look at it and you think the St. Louis pitching staff was a heck of a lot better than the Dodgers pitching staff.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
going into it, at least.
Well, and Adam Wainwright pitched a very good game. If not for Matt Holliday's drop and Ryan Franklin, who doesn't get enough of the blame there, his blown save there, that could have been 1-1 going back to St. Louis.
Easily.
But, I mean, yeah, there's no denying the Cardinals had the better pitching staff, but the Dodgers had the better bullpen, and their bats came to play. I mean, Matt Holliday, they did a good job minimizing Pujols, made him do nothing.
And I think the home field advantage helped the Dodgers, too. Now, I was expecting St. Louis to go back home and go back into St. Louis and get a win.
Yeah,
at least one. I didn't think they were going to get swept. I didn't think they'd come back and win the series, but I certainly didn't expect them to get swept.
Now, earlier, I predicted on the site that the Dodgers would win the series, but I thought it'd be 3-2. So even when the Dodgers went 2-0 at home, I still thought the Cardinals could take two back, and then I was just shocked.
And then there's the Red Sox who got swept by the Angels. And the Red Sox, they were really up and down all season. And it started with the big Poppy slump. And they never really recovered. I mean, Poppy ended up with 28 home runs. But it wasn't as if you ever felt the Red Sox being a dominant team. They won those 8 straight at the beginning of the year against the Yankees. And then after that, the Yankees completely dominated and completely ran away with the AL East.
Oh, yeah. No, all season, the Red Sox have just been so streaky. If you really think about it, ever since they traded away Manny Ramirez, they have not been the same team.
That's true. And you look at what Manny's done for the Dodgers. Now, that's a risk-reward thing. You look at what Manny maybe did to the clubhouse. Are they a better team without Manny? Well, player-wise, you would think maybe not. Cohesiveness, maybe.
No, I think it was the right thing to do. He needed to be traded. He needed to be out of there. I just think it's interesting that since then, they have not been the same team. I mean, in the series, the Angels had nothing going for them. They'd never beaten the Red Sox in the playoffs. And after they won Game 1, I saw a stat that said they were 0-3 in series in which they won Game 1, and they'd never swept anybody. They had all this going against them, and they still did it, and against Jonathan Papelbon, Red Sox best pitcher.
Exactly. It's not like the Red Sox were throwing scrubs out there. And, I don't know what's in store for the Red Sox. They may be at the point now where they have to blow up their franchise in order to get better.
I mean, that might be the case. David Ortiz can't do it anymore. Mike Lowell's getting old. Luckily, they do have a great farm system with some young pitchers, so they might not have to blow up, but they might have to take a couple years backseat in the AL East again.
And I think the guys that you're consistently seeing on the Red Sox are going to have to go. They're going to have to give way to those younger players in their farm system, like you mentioned. It may be time for the Red Sox to move on without David Ortiz. It may be time for them to move on without some of their other key players, people that you've always, and it started when they got rid of Garciaparra and then Ramirez, and maybe Ortiz is next.
No, yeah, and I think they have a good foundation if they keep players like Jason Bay and Kevin Youkilis, Dustin Pedroia, and Jacoby Ellsbury. I think any team would take all 4 of those players over almost anybody they have right now.
Right, and I'm not saying that they should get rid of those players. I'm just saying maybe in order for them...
Oh, no, you get rid of the older, maybe not so productive ones anymore.
Exactly.
The Mike Lowells, the David Ortiz.
It's sort of like a changing of the guard needs to happen, and, those people like Ellsbury and Pedroia, those younger guys that you mentioned, need to become the face of that franchise.
Yeah, and the Yankees did that a few years ago when they got rid of the Paul O'Neills, Bernie Williamses, even Giambi a couple of years last year. That just has to happen for a team every now and then, and it might be that time for the Red Sox.
Speaking of the Yankees, they completely worked the Twins. They will now be facing the Angels in the ALDS, which will be a pretty good series.
Yeah. Do you think had Detroit won that tiebreaker, it would have been a closer series?
I don't know. I had been a big fan of Detroit, and I think Detroit petered out towards the end. Because Detroit showed in that tiebreaker and in their last couple of series in the regular season that they weren't the team we thought they were.
No, they were not who we thought they were.
Right. You're exactly right. They did not show up to play So what makes me think that they would have played better against the Yankees? There's nothing to say they would have.
Yeah, and it's not like the Twins played poorly. I mean, game 2, they went to 11 innings. It was just A-Rod came to play this time. And
Which was a shock to everybody.
oh, yeah.
And it's about time A-Rod showed up in the month of October.
Yeah, prior to game 2 of the ALDS, he was 1 for 27 with runners in scoring position. After that, he batted .455 with 2 homers and 7 RBIs.
Now, the Yankees are thinking about going with a 3-man rotation in this next series. They're going to pitch Sabathia on Friday in Game 1. Sabathia, though, 0-2 against the Angels this season.
Yeah, I don't really like that idea. I think the Yankees have enough depth at pitching. Where's Joe Chamberlain in all of this? I mean, he was supposed to be the man last year
That's
for this
the thing.
team.
If you've got the highest paid roster, you're going to have some darn good pitchers on your team. Why not throw them out there? Because what happens if you go with a 3-man rotation in that series? Say you make it to the World Series, but then your pitchers are a little tired.
Yeah, I mean, Sabathia pitched a tremendous amount of games last year in the second half of the Brewers, so you know he can do it, but you do not want to risk on the investment they gave him right there. The Brewers are just playing with house money there. They didn't have to, but, I don't like that idea. The Angels have a good rotation with Lackey, Cashmere, Weaver, and Saunders, and I don't think you want to go, because say Sabathia gets roughed up Game 1. Do you want him to go to Game 4?
No, I don't want him to go to Game 4, especially, depending upon when the scheduling is.
Right, and if it's against Lackey, who, granted, it's only one game in the playoffs, he had 7 innings of shutout ball the other night.
Right.
He's looking pretty good right now. I'd be worried.
And then in the other league series, the Rockies, well, not the Rockies. The Rockies lost last night.
Only team to not get swept, though.
In a very good series, actually. I mean, the Rockies, how heartbreaking is that? The Rockies score 3 in the bottom of the 8th, and then the Phillies come back and score 4 in the top of the 9th.
That was awful. I mean, you got to question Jim Tracy leaving Houston Street out there, righty against Ryan Howard, one of the best lefties in the game. I mean, yes, he's been your closer all season, but you got to play the numbers there. You cannot make that kind of risk. And they're also going to complain about that missed call in Game 3 on Chase Utley.
Yeah,
it both hit him, and he was thrown out at first.
Yeah. So now the Phillies going to take on the Dodgers in the championship series in that league. Now it's interesting because we've got teams on different ends of the spectrum in the country. You got the New York and playing Los Angeles, and then you got Los Angeles playing Philadelphia. It's going to be a lot of travel for those guys.
It is, and I would feel really bad for the Phillies had they had lost last night and won today, because they would get 1 day of rest and had to fly out to L.A. for a Thursday game.
Whereas which makes no sense.
Yankees and the Angels have been off for about 4 or 5 days and play Friday.
Now, granted, the Phillies did have that game canceled and were pushed back a day.
Right, but I still think you could easily. I don't like the idea of the Yankees and Angels having to wait that long. Baseball and the Dodgers are at an extreme disadvantage. You saw the Rockies last year in the World Series. They swept their way through and had about 6 or 7 days of rest, and the Red Sox came in killing them.
There's a long time between those games. In baseball, you play games every day.
Yeah, I mean, you at most
for the entire summer.
You at most get 2 days off at one. You get 3 days off for the All-Star game,
break,
and that's it. Every other time it's 1 day.
Exactly.
And I'd be worried if I were Dodgers right now. I still pick them, but I don't know. I think the Phillies have an advantage here right now.
All right, well, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit of the NFL, some surprising teams at 5-0 and some even more shocking teams at 0-5. And then later on in this podcast, we will talk a little bit about some college football. Good games coming up this weekend, and a pretty good game last weekend as well. It's the Living on Sports podcast. Don't go anywhere.